What is up, guys? Frosty 0232 here today with some new content, bit of new, called Canon Kits with my bro here, Rolfkieran, fellow streamer extraordinaire, the singiest of Singaporean streamers, which is a cool thing. So what Rolf and I are gonna do, we're gonna work through. Today we're talking about Hive Mind. And what we're going to do here is just sort of talk through different kits that are in Hive Mind and talk about the team as a whole. And I'm going to bring up lore stuff and try to talk about it. And Rolf's going to help me out with some more of the technical stuff because I suck at this game. So how you doing, Rolf?
I'm doing good. It's already Monday here, so I'm in the future.
So starting off, usually, so Carnage is an older character. I don't know if he was an OG release or not. So with that, what they're doing, a lot of these older characters have jokes and Easter eggs in the name of the attack. So, Carnage's basic here, Cleave, which has recently been reworked. I believe all of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rolf, has all of Carnage and Venom's kits been reworked, or is it just specific things?
Specific things. So besides that, so like for Carnage, for example, actually his basic is exactly the same.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Then looking at the but for Venom, everything has been changed. Only Carnage basic is the same.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
So with Cleave, so we'll keep it nice and quick. So Hive Mind is a new raid team, but also especially with like with a little bit of theory crafting, seem like they have the ability to be used in a couple places. But with Cleave, we just see that Carnage and Venom like to use symbiotes, they can kind of manifest in whatever the host kind of pictures in their mind. So they use a lot of axes and swords. So what we see here is it's called Cleave, but that looks more like a knife, whereas they could have actually done more of a symbiote kind of cleaver thing, so I don't know how I feel about that. So attack primary target for 280% damage. If the primary target has a negative effect, chain 1 to 2 adjacent targets for 90% damage, plus spread 2 negative effects from primary target to secondary targets. This will not spread stun, counterattack breaks this chain. So, I mean, even for an old basic, that doesn't sound that bad to me, the spreading of the negative effects and things like that. So was it just not changed because his basic has stood the test of time? 280 also seems like a pretty decent percentage for a basic.
I mean, it's pretty okay. I mean, on the symbiotes, when Carnage was on the symbiotes with Venom, the main basis of the team was negative effects, right? And it was just spreading negative effects. You have the I guess we'll talk about it later. Venom's ultimate, and then just spreading, and it's just a lot of like damage over time. So like it's pretty basic, right? If you look at the Hive Mind kits, they're going down a similar route. So yeah, I think there's no need to change.
So Hive Mind really is sort of just feeling like updated symbiotes with all the crazy new kits of people. Maybe.
Yeah, a much better version of the symbiotes. Yeah.
Okay. Slaughter, Carnage, famously, if you know who Carnage is, Carnage is Cletus Cassidy. He's a famous serial killer. So with Slaughter, it's just that's just a reference to the fact that he likes to kill people, right? So we've got attack primary target for 420% damage, plus 100% additional damage per negative effect. Remove all negative effects from the primary target. Attack all adjacent targets for 250% damage. In raids, do not remove any negative effects from the primary target. Attack all adjacent targets for 420 damage instead. 420, blaze it. Number one. Number two, so I don't know if you know the changes off the top of your head. I that would be impressive. I assume that the damage has upped on this, and they have added the damage per negative effect. That's been a big thing recently. I know they've had it before, like Shang-Chi has it, but or something similar. But that I assume maybe they added the damage per negative effect.
Actually, it's been there since the start.
Really?
So what's been added is the raid tags in Venom and Carnage kits. Originally, they don't have anything related to raids. The reason why they were raid team symbiotes was because Silver Spider-Man had like raid specific things, and Dark Dimension as well at that point of time. So the raid portion was actually added. If you notice, like a lot of people complained actually about the original kit because the removal of the negative effects was counterproductive, right? Like as for a team that's based on like negative effects, you really didn't want to clear it. The only like use for it, I guess, in the past was like for like Deadpool, because Deadpool he heals on his turn based on number of negative effects he has. Right, that's his entire stick. So other than that very niche use, everyone wasn't really happy with the removal. That's why they added that portion during the rework.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. And then so Absolute Carnage. This is one of the Easter eggs I was talking about. This is a reference to comic book art where we have Mr. Possessed Carnage. And also we have an Absolute Carnage skin in game where he's all gaunt looking and he's got the little twirly things on his head. It does not match. Absolute Carnage is not the type of Carnage you see in the actual little thumbnail we've got there. So this is another really good example of early Scopely just putting things together because words happen, right? So this is the ultimate. If the primary target is above 50% health, apply Disrupted for 2 turns and bleed for 2 turns. If the primary target is below 50% health, apply offense down for 2 turns, defense down for 2 turns, and slow for 2 turns, gain offense up for 2 turns, defense up for 2 turns, and speed up for 2 turns. There's a lot of 2s there. Attack primary target for 500% piercing, apply an additional 2 bleed for 2 turns, and this attack cannot be dodged. One of the things I was interested in bringing into this, so I would definitely take comments on how to do it, is so that we could see the attack. Because I feel like I could speak a little bit more on how that works in the comics. But this is his ultimate. Is it a similar animation to Venom's ultimate? Where he just kind of shoots that stuff out. It's kind of, the thumbnail looks like Venom's in my head.
Not really. He goes towards the primary target, and he like, I don't know. The tendrils from the symbiotes will start to attack the enemy. So that's basically the animation. So it's a single target move. So it's just him going forward and shooting out the stuff from his body.
So
yeah.
So it doesn't have much to do with the thumbnail.
It kind of looks like the thumbnail.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that it's more towards a single. Like he walks up to the person. Yeah.
Okay. Frenzied Fury, when an enemy drops below 25% health, fill speed bar by 30% off for self and all symbiote allies, plus heal for 10% of this character's max health. Hive Mind, all of them have the symbiote tag, is that right?
Yes, they do.
Okay, that's what I thought. On kill, apply vulnerable to the enemy with the lowest resistance. It does not have vulnerable. When an enemy has taunt, gain plus 50% critical damage. Carnage is one of the angrier of the symbiotes. Frenzied Fury, you're welcome. Carnage also is more known to kill his hosts a little bit more because he's a freaking serial killer. And like how, we'll talk about it probably with Venom a little bit, but like how Venom bonds with Spider-Man, Venom gets it in his head that Spider-Man is like essentially the coolest being that has ever existed ever. So he takes on that Spider-Man-like features and stuff like that. So Carnage has the same thing. Carnage is the son of Venom, and Carnage also feels the same way Venom does about Spider-Man about Cletus Cassidy, the serial killer. So even when, and we'll find that with Red Goblin, when he ends up, when the Carnage symbiote is used elsewhere, he kind of gives off the characteristics of Cletus Cassidy, who essentially is the Joker from DC, but not as much theatricality. Cool. So, I mean, that's Carnage right there, I guess.
Carnage O passive was only the line about the 25% health. So so everything else that comes after that, like the on kill, the taunts, all that stuff actually is pretty new.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah.
And so, I think Does Scream have on her passive? There's a speed up on kill or something like that.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
She has that mechanic as well. Yeah.
Let's talk Gwenum a little bit. Um,
Sure.
Savage Web. One thing I like about that is it looks similar to one of Ghost Spider's attacks, just like in thumbnail. But Savage Web, I mean, we've just got a Venomized, so it's Venomized Gwenum. I talked about her in Frosty Features Ghost Spider, but essentially she loses her powers and she uses Venom to get him back, and she also uses Venom to get revenge on Rhino for almost killing her father. So let's see. Savage Web, clear barrier on primary and adjacent targets. Attack primary adjacent targets for 320% damage. Flip 2 positive effects, negative effects. Apply a defense down. Apply 2 bleed to primary target. Enrage. Generate 1 ability energy to self and all Hive Mind allies. Yeah, it's one of those. This is one of those basics where they like added a wall of text. Hey.
Yeah, definitely. If you think about it, um, on the bio notes, there are a lot of characters with barrier. I think on the boss note, so I think it's pretty good. I mean, obviously you want to use a special in your ultimate, but to flip positive negative effects, I think if you read some of the kits, you'll see that there's a lot, especially Void Knight's kit. Eventually, there's a lot to do with like taking damage from bleeds that leads to I think healing. So and I think it's important to know about flipping of positive effects, because when you flip positive effects, obviously you get negative effect, and I think there are like 5 statuses or 6 statuses that will flip to bleeds. Like regeneration is one. I think death proof. I can't remember what the others are. So like for example, like offense up will flip to offense down, but there are others that will flip to bleeds. And I think it's important to note because like it ties to the rest of the characters' kits with the bleeds, especially Void Knights. So like it helps with the sustainability of the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And plus, on the if you read the basic as well, like there's additional bleeds. So there's just bleed city, man.
So is there theory crafting already with Undying?
I mean, you could like in war. That's a good point. Because like for example, like even like in Dark Dimension, obviously we know that right now Robbie Reyes is the star of Dark Dimension city notes, and this definitely helps pop him off because he gains a lot of speed bar when you apply bleeds. That's why people like Craven. That's why people like Venom. Like they pair very well with Robbie Reyes, who's the star. So everyone else just supports. But the better your support is, then Robbie just runs riot.
Cool. All right, moving on to the special tongue twister. This is specifically to the design that they chose for Gwenum. I'm not the biggest fan of the Gwenum design with because if you look at her in the comics, the tongue is not so prominently displayed. I think they really wanted to tie her into Venom more, so they added it. So I honestly think this is a joke on their own design. So I mean that's all that is there. Gain the opposite of all negative effects, excluding bleed, on the primary target. Attack primary target for 320% damage. Apply stun for 2 turns. Attack adjacent targets for 320% damage. Generate 1 ability energy to self and all Hive Mind allies. In raids, spread all positive effects, excluding stealth, taunt, and regeneration from self to all Hive Mind allies. So, stun for 2 turns is freaking dirty.
It is. I mean, obviously, like stun is one of the best negative effects you can put on anyone. So having it on turn 1 shuts down like many teams.
Yeah, so you essentially can't other than like speeding them to death, because what would she get this on turn 2? Other than speeding Hive Mind to death, that will cause a really big trouble if you don't have some sort of debuff clear.
Yeah, definitely.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, I feel like that's how new kits get. It's like, well, if this isn't good enough, they're gonna do it for long. They're gonna do what's already bad for longer. That way, they're that much stronger than everybody else.
Yeah.
Symbiotic Fury, clear all, well, you see how she's still using her tongue here? No bueno.
Sorry, I have the image on my own screen as well. But yeah, she uses the tongue as well.
Yeah. But Symbiotic Fury, same thing with the Carnage. With Carnage, clear all barrier from all targets. Bury yourself, all Hive Mind, and all Spider-Verse allies for 50% of this character's max health. Attack all enemies for 400% damage and apply offense down for 2 turns. Apply offense up and defense up to self and all Hive Mind and all Spider-Verse allies. That's pretty nice. That's bringing in Spider-Verse there. In raids, apply stun to the enemy with the highest damage, ignoring taunt and stealth. Generate 1 ability energy for self and all Hive Mind allies, and this attack gains 100% extra focus per symbiote ally. So, do you feel like they're building these... It feels like this to me. Do you feel like they're building these kits for the fact that they can... Kind of like Sinister 6, where you don't necessarily have to use Superior 6. You can kind of place in some of these different, theory craft, essentially with... To me, it feels like Hive Mind is, here, now you can theory craft with some symbiotes. Or, in this case, Spider-Verse characters.
The honest truth is that you're talking about symbiotes that are not Hive Mind, they are all pretty garbage.
Yeah.
So, right now, they're not, like, you wouldn't use Scream. You might use Anti-Venom. I've seen Anti-Venom on defense as a 5th on War once. But, they die, So, like, the overall thing about this team is that they die pretty fast if you can hit them. But in this case, I don't think... At the very least for the symbiotes, I don't think there is much plug and play. Maybe in Crucible, because if you read the rules for the next Crucible rules, there's some there's a portion that says that symbiotes count as Sinister 6 and Superior 6 members, which can be interesting. But I think that at the very least for now, before Red Goblin comes out, it's going to be, like, if you're going to see them on defense, it's going to be Super Skrull with the 4-piece. Otherwise, you use them on offense.
Symbiote Ghost. So, first off, the thumbnail on this is sick. I don't know what it's necessarily going off of, unless her icon has changed on her chest or something, but that is a really cool... It's a super cool, like, symbiote spider looking thing. When this character or a Hive Mind ally drops below 50% health, apply 2 evade to that character on turn, heal self and all symbiote allies for 5% of this character's max health. When this character's health is above 50%, gain 50% dodge chance. When this character's health is 50% or lower, gain 30% drain. Gain 60% focus. Hive Mind and Spider-Verse allies gain 60% focus. So this is how bad my kit knowledge is. This reminds me of Luke Cage a little bit. Just the drops below 50%, now I'm going to screw your world up in that kind of way.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Super loose.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the 50% thing is, here's the thing, right? It actually reminds me more of Gambit. When Gambit goes into stealth, which he does when he goes below 50%, he actually gets drained as well. And I think the drain also was on his ping. That one I'm not very sure. But I think he does well on his ping. So it actually reminds me more of Gambit. Obviously, Granum doesn't ping, right? Which is quite funny because Ghost Spider, she actually pings on the Web Warriors team.
Yeah.
Which is it a missed opportunity? Maybe it's more for balance. But I think it's interesting. Like you mentioned, Luke Cage actually reminded me a lot more of like Gambit. Maybe it's just the 3 diamond Gambits that I see in Crucible that like traumatized me. But yeah.
That's fair. That also sounds terrifying. I don't see Gambits that big, but Gambit does tend to mess my stuff up quite a bit. All right, so next is Venom. So Eddie Brock, our guy, Maul. Once again, we have an old character here, so a lot of the attacks are super basic. So maul literally means to maul. But as a reminder, symbiotes kind of all work in a similar way. You conceptualize it, it makes it, right? So maul attack primary target for 280% damage. That's the same amount of damage as Carnage was when we read it before. Flip 2 positive effects into negative effects. Apply bleed and heal block. So instead of spreading negative effects, it's giving negative effects. Fill speed bar by 20%. This attack cannot be dodged. Pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very kind of dry, but if you think about it, this is actually one of the best. Like in terms of basic, because most people when they T4 their characters, they actually go special, ultimate, and passive. Most people ignore the basic and for good reason. Most of the time, the basics is bad, but actually the T4 for this includes the speed up by 20%, and that speed bar. So speed up, sorry, not speed up. Speed bar by 20%. That is a lot of speed bar. So and if you look at you look at the passive later, right? He will he gets speed. So Venom is a character that can go pretty out of control. I mean, eventually, I don't think he's like like Quicksilver out of control or like Super Skrull out of control, but be able to flip, like I said, right? Bleeds ties into kit or Void Knight ties into the kits of the others. Extra damage procs the passive of Carnage. So all these things all add up, and heal block as well. Heal block is, in my opinion, heal block's pretty underrated.
Oh, and I guess I hadn't really considered it, but he can flip immunities to disrupted, can he?
Yes,
just from his freaking basic.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty nasty. So for our special, we have Violate, which is sort of an uncomfortable name. But once again, it doesn't really. It's you're maiming and killing people, and especially with Venom, you're eating a lot of people. So Violate just works. Attack primary target for 380% damage. Apply ability block for 1 turn, heal block for 2 turns, and 3 bleeds for 2 turns. So this, I think you said it earlier, but this is pretty similar to how it was, to the point it had heal block. I don't remember if it had ability block, but I remember when I was lowly level 20 and I paid the $5 to buy Venom. One of the main reasons why I got it.
Everyone did that.
Everybody did.
But yeah. But talking about the ability block, yes, he had the ability block from then.
Oh, he did?
So, yeah, he had the ability block. The heal block is a new thing.
Oh, see, I thought it was the heal block he had. Okay, so it was the ability block. Okay, that's cool. And then in raids, bonus attack primary target for 380% damage. Prolong all negative effects on primary target by 1 up to a maximum of 3. And this attack cannot be dodged.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of status effects. Like I said, like Hive Mind is basically the elevated version of the symbiotes. So like symbiotes is all about debuffs and spreading them and causing a lot of pain, damage over time. And this just takes it to the next level, and their kits complement. Like the problem with the symbiotes was that the bleeds were just there, the negative effects were just there, but they kind of did nothing besides spreading them around. The only benefit is that obviously at that point of time, Anti-Venom's ultimate, if I'm not wrong, or is it special? I can't really remember. Would flip it and inverse it and spread it onto your team. Alright. But yeah, like I said, it helps the rest of the team move forward.
Corruption. So part of the whole thing with the symbiotes is that, especially with Venom, we find if you watch Spider-Man 3, which most people won't recommend and I won't, but as a host is exposed to Venom for long periods of time, they kind of experience this kind of degradation of personality. They become, in Spider-Man 3, he becomes emo, but a lot of the times they become irritable. Side effects may include irritability, being a pain in the etc., which is kind of where we can kind of see corruption here. Attack primary and adjacent targets 320% damage. Apply heal block for 2 turns. Offense down for 2 turns. Spread all negative effects from the primary target to all adjacent targets. This will not spread stun. Clear all negative effects from self and the most injured ally. This attack cannot be dodged. So, so the clip of this ultimate So he actually sticks his arm out, and this is what I was talking about with Carnage, right? So with Carnage, it shows it's like it's the same thing, except it's coming from his chest, and it looks like a range attack. But in Venom's case, if I remember correctly, it is like a range attack, and he hits everybody with it, and it comes, yeah. But with Carnage, it's not, even though it's the same, it's almost the same art. But it's cool art, super cool.
Yeah, and like this was a pretty good ability. Like you just like say you're just spreading more of the negative effects, and now you also apply offense down. Obviously that helps your survivability a lot. And yeah, and the cleanse as well. Yeah, the cleanse is pretty good. Like I said, like off topic, Venom's rework is actually pretty good. I think a lot of people dismissed Venom at the beginning, but as they got to use him, as they got to play with him, they realized that Venom's actually cracked.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about building a big Venom, like not building Hive Mind necessarily, but building Void Knight and Venom are the ones that I've heard people really talk about. I don't know if that's good advice. This was also all before the Red Goblin kit came out, so I don't know if that advice stands. But I know all I've heard about other than what I read is that people have been, and we'll get to Red Goblin here in a bit. But is that he's just he has a good kit, but he's very slow. Which is something I've noticed with all the Dark Dimension characters, is they have fantastic kits, but they're slow.
Oh man, he's slow as molasses, man.
Yeah. So symbiosis. So there's a symbiosis. Well, and that's sort of the trick with Venom too. Is the reason why he likes Spider-Man so much is he can reach symbiosis. So typically the symbiotes actually work more like parasites, and they kill their hosts. They eat, especially with Venom, he slowly eats their brain. That's what most symbiotes do, is eat their brain. Carnage has this thing where he's a bit more of a bloodsucker, but also eating brains. So when hitting symbiosis, Venom was able to hit symbiosis with Spider-Man, which essentially means he could hit his perfect balance. So he had a totally compatible host. Therefore, he didn't have to kill his host. They could sustain each other and benefit each other. That being symbiosis, scientifically and in Marvel Comics. With Eddie Brock, he ends up reaching a symbiosis, because the version of Venom we have in the game is the Eddie Brock version. He does hit a symbiosis, but for the longest time, he's actually killing Eddie slowly. So that's something. One of the cool things you can tell, whoever made this, the thumbnail for this, that kind of makes it a little bit better, is when you see this emblem on Venom's chest, the web's not back there. So it is sort of an Easter egg. It is sort of a nod to, hey, this worked with Spider-Man, not necessarily Venom. Which that's how I feel about the thumbnail anyway. So on turn, heal for 15% of this character's max health. Apply defense up for 2 turns to self and all symbiote allies. Gain 10% speed up to a maximum of 30% speed. When an enemy gains heal block, apply counter to self or one random ally that does not have counter. Well, this character or any Spider-Verse ally has counter. Those characters gain plus 15% critical chance. And gain 100% focus if any Spider-Verse character is present. Wait, that's nasty. Does that stack?
No, I think it's only a flat 100%.
Oh, it's a flat. Okay, that would be really that'd be kind of dumb if it stacked.
So yeah. So obviously it's I mean, you just have one Spider-Verse ally, right? So obviously the Hive Mind are all Spider-Verse as well, besides being symbiotes. So, but like I say, if you manage to put in like let's say Black Cat, right? If you have Black Cat with him, then obviously it'll work. Yeah, and also so the speed part is, because I think his base, I can't know what's his base speed. I know his base speed is pretty low, but let me just check. But with the speed mechanic, which I think the only other character is Silver Surfer, right? Where every turn he gets additional speed, and then on top of the basic, where you get speed bar, and also just a side note, his ISO attack also gives him speed bar. So in theory, right, if you attack with the basic and then with the ISO attack, he gains 40% speed bar.
So Void Knight, being a symbiote version of Silver Surfer, uh, yeah, cosmic corruption. There you go. That's pretty self-explanatory. He power cosmic, and Null himself grabs Silver Surfer and creates him, turns him into a symbiote. As far as the background on the symbiote goes, so with Carnage, it's the Carnage symbiote with Gwenom, and actually Red Goblin is also Carnage. Gwenom and Venom have the Venom symbiote. Void Knights is just a symbiote. It is unnamed. It is just a symbiote from the planet itself of Clintar, and it has no special attributes. It legitimately is just a base level symbiote template they just throw on top of him. So I equate it most to Venom because he's a black symbiote, or gray like Riot. But you don't really, it doesn't really play out because Void Knight exists for approximately 2 whole pages in the comics. Cosmic Corruption. Attack primary target for 340% damage. Flip 3 negative effects into positive effects on self. If this character has no negative effects, flip 3 positive effects into negative effects on the primary target instead. In raids, always flip 3 positive effects into negative effects on the primary target. Regardless if this character has any negative effects, this attack cannot be counterattacked. Also, this has the spear. So, Void Knight does not have a spear in the comics, but our version of Void Knight does. It hasn't really been addressed by Scopely, but what my brain brings it to is, there's this thing called the Necro Sword. It is the sword that Gore the God Butcher uses in the masterpiece film Thor: Love and Thunder. In the comics,
Awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. In the comics, the Necro Sword, it can change depending on who wields it. And there's a point where it's broken down and reforged into something called the Necro Spear, which looks a lot like Void Knight's spear. So there's no proof that this is the Necro Spear, but a spear in that shape is pretty rare, and they look similar. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that in the thumbnail there, and the spear that we're using in-game is actually a little Easter egg that which is the Necro Spear. But besides that, I'm not sure why, other than it's cool. I don't know why Surfer has it.
Yeah, sometimes when things are cool, you can just accept it for it being cool.
Yeah, just cool with that. I didn't even notice. Yeah. That's the worst thing. I didn't even notice that he had a spear, and then I was in chat and Run7 was like, "Hey, Frosty, do you know what this spear is?" And I was like, I didn't even realize he had a spear. And then I looked at it and I was like, that looks familiar. And I was like, it's the Necro Spear, or it looks like the Necro Spear. But it's just one of those cool things. Anything to say on his basic? It seems pretty nasty. It reminds me a little bit. It almost feels like Carnage and Venom smashed together a little bit.
Yeah, it also feels like a twisted version of Silver. I mean, obviously this is based on Silver Surfer, so it feels like a bit of a twisted version of Silver Surfer's basic as well. Silver Surfer's basic, if I'm not wrong, so Silver Surfer's basic, if you have negative effects, you transfer them to the primary target, and then if you don't have any negative effects, you steal their positive effects. All right, so that's why. So like at that point of time, strongest basic in the game kind of thing, do the basic T4. That's what everyone was saying. So yeah, it feels like it's along the same lines. Instead of stealing, you're flipping it.
Scourge of the Spaceways, that is a play on one of the Sir titles, or whatever, one of the titles that follows Silver Surfer around as Sentinel of the Spaceways. So this is Scourge because he's evil now, or more evil, I guess. Silver Surfer's sort of when he's actually acting as the Herald of Galactus, but it's a force of nature, so is it really evil? We don't know. Blah 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 blah. Scourge of the Spaceways. Steal up to 1 ability energy from the primary target. In rage, steal up to 3 ability energy from the primary target. Attack primary and adjacent targets 350% piercing. Apply defense down for 2 turns. This attack cannot be counterattacked. Stealing ability energy. Who else is that? Is that okay? Is that a thing? Who else does that?
Star-Lord T'Challa actually does that as well.
He does. I never used Cha-Cha. Ever since he came out, I unlocked him and he's just stayed level 1. He's just chilling.
Yeah, but Cha-Cha is conditional, you see. Cha-Cha, I think, is a special. You have to land the blind onto the opponent, and then you're able to steal it. So if you don't let them blind, let's say you get resisted, right? Or the person has evades, or you're blind, or you have blind yourself, then you don't steal the energy. And I think for him it's steal 2 energy. Yeah. Yeah. So Silver Surfer. Void Knight is the second character to have it. But like I said, it's not conditional. Like you just steal it. Unlike Cha-Cha's where you have to let the blind and then you steal the energy.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel okay. It feels pretty broken. And then in raids, you can steal up to 3 from the primary. Not that you're playing against anybody in raids, so it's great to get what you can, but that's a lot. Especially, you know, one of the things I was noticing is that his special here is it takes 6 ability energy, and then his ult takes 5. So I mean, that's not cheap, you know.
Yeah,
especially for a special.
If you look at the passive later, then you can understand why.
Oh yeah. All right. So ult, Dark Horizon. I'm not actually sure if this. I don't know if this is an Easter egg or not. It's a cool title for an attack. So we'll take it for that. It could be a reference to Clintar because it's essentially a black liquid planet. Liquid being a ball of symbiote. Pull all enemies up to 2 spaces towards the primary target. Well, and with what I said about Clintar, that actually that tracks. So that's pretty cool. That does feel like it's out of the comics. As far as symbiotes go, not Void Knight. Void Knight once again gets decimated immediately. Primary targets within 2 spaces for 320% damage. Flip 3 positive effects into negative effects on all targets. Flip all positive effects on Spider-Verse enemies. Oh, that's cool. That's nasty. Apply ability block for 2 turns to the primary target. In raids, apply ability block to all targets. This attack gains 5,000% extra focus, is unavoidable, and cannot be counterattacked. So is Void Knight just the, hey, screw Superior 6?
Okay, that's hard to say because Superior 6 start, like, if you have Craven with them, you start with Safeguard. So, not really. But, you know, it's actually quite interesting to think about it, right? Because pulling of enemies, Magneto or Polaris, right? They have that. And then you have the flip positive effects. Sounds like Icarus. And then flipping for positive effects is Icarus. Obviously only on Spider-Verse enemies, but you know. I mean, we're talking about this is a bio raid team, right? Well, who's the main big bad on the bio boss node? Somebody called Black Cat, and she's Spider-Verse. So you know, obviously they are. You know, it's a direct call out to Black Cat on the boss node.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it feels a bit like Icarus Kid, and then and then so it's just it's pretty nice. And obviously pulling them all together, we talked about like how a lot of the abilities have a lot of like adjacency, so you know it just crowds them all together and it just helps to spread negative effects better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've never been able to make it that far in the once I get to bio, my teams peter out and I can't do anything. So I've never made it to the boss node.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Enter the Void on spawn. So I think that's just his name's Void Knight. So there you go. Enter the Void on spawn. Generate 2 ability energy for all Hive Mind allies. Generate 1 ability energy plus 1 additional ability energy per Hive Mind ally for this character. Fill this character's speed bar by 25%. That's what you were talking about earlier, Rolf. He has the high cooldowns, but his passive, it's at the top. At the top, he has a lot of ability energy. Fill this character's speed bar by 25%. On end of any turn, heal for 3% of this character's max health. That's of any turn. Good stuff.
Yes.
When an enemy takes... This dude will be great in Dark Dimension.
Oh yeah.
When an enemy takes damage... Was it?
Remember that he's cosmic. So he's not city, so you can use him with... like, you can't use him on the city nodes with Robbie. But you know what? He's definitely a good fifth for people who are considering like who have not started or are planning their DD6 roster, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, I unlocked it. I unlocked him yesterday, and immediately I'm starting to build him for DD6 because I'm still trudging through it.
And that is the right choice.
When an enemy takes damage from bleed, heal self and all Hive Mind allies for 10% of this character's max health. That's ridiculous. Gain plus 60% max health. Hive Mind allies gain 30% max health. Gain plus 60% armor. Hive Mind allies gain 30% armor. In raids, on spawn, apply speed up to self and all Hive Mind allies. On spawn, apply slow to the enemy with the highest speed. Enemies cannot gain immunity. What is that? That's just raids, though, I guess. Hive Mind
Yeah.
allies gain additional 30% max health. Hive Mind allies gain additional 30% armor. Holy crap!
Yeah, it is. MSF kids have started to become encyclopedias nowadays.
Yeah, you're not lying.
Soon we'll get the first kid that's an actual thesis that Oppenheimer will be proud of. So you're looking at the passive, like obviously it's a wall attacks, but as a support, he generates energy for everyone, and which means that actually, if you look back at Gwenum's kid, right? So actually, Gwenum is able to alt turn one, even though she's a 3/5 or something. Like she was missing 2 energy, so that fills the gap for the 2 energy. Yeah, um, and obviously the second part where he basically gets 5 energy on spawn for himself, because I mean unless you don't have record, like when the full team is out, right, you have 5 energy. I think the important part is also the speed bar. I think his base speed is like 117, which means that he will most likely go first on the team, which is why people are recommending Raider, because he goes first. His moves have cover, like his moves are AoE, so he's definitely going to be a very good Raider, and yeah, he's going to go first. He's going to, and you can play around with it, right? You can use the ultimate, flip stuff. You can use and put all things together. You can use a special and steal energy. So yeah, he's going to be a menace as well, or at least for your offense. And like I said, right, we talked a lot about the bleeds over the last 4 kits, right? And then now it comes into play. When you take damage from bleeds, you start healing, right? There's healing, and there's so much bleed on the team.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're spreading it around. Carnage basic, Venom's ultimate. So yeah, it's a lot of healing.
Yeah, I'm thinking again about the undying thing I brought up earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, and looking at the raid portion, right? Enemies cannot gain immunity, just like the previous, just like the ultimate. It's 100% a call out to Black Cat, because Black Cat spawns with immunity. So yeah, you're just going hard on her.
Basic Goblin Assault. So what Red Goblin is, at a point, Norman Osborn is stripped of his Goblin Serum. So Goblin Serum essentially is really messed up. Most characters in Marvel Universe their powers are based on the Super Soldier Serum of Captain America. The Goblin Serum is a messed up version of that serum. It is stripped from his body by nanites, and he's looking to get his powers back. And he breaks the Carnage symbiote out of a place called the Lockup. It's just one of the many super prisons they have. And so he gets the Carnage symbiote to rip the nanites out of his system. So he has the Goblin Serum and the Carnage symbiote. So it essentially makes Green Goblin so he becomes Red Goblin, and he's stronger than a regular person would be with a symbiote. So Red Goblin's quite powerful, even in the context of the canon of the Marvel Universe. Goblin Assault. So this, just by the name alone, that has nothing to do with the Carnage symbiote, just the fact that he's attacking people. Attack primary and adjacent targets with 350% damage, apply 2 bleed. More bleeds. Gain regeneration, apply 2 regeneration to the most injured Hive Mind ally. Cool. But as far as the basics go, compared to the rest of the team, I don't even think the basics really all that in a bag of chips. It just feels sort of baseline compared to the rest of the team. Is that fair to say?
I mean, that's fair to say, but it's also there's a lot of energy going around. So obviously Void Knight on spawn, but also Gwenom gives a lot of energy. So the fact of the matter is, are you going to use the basic that much?
Oh,
Right? Yeah.
that's fair. Special slash and burn. So Norman himself sort of has an affinity for fire. A little bit. He typically will blow things up or burn things down. So slash and burn. That would be the first reference to the Carnage symbiote because of the weapon kind of forms that the symbiote likes to take. Energy cost 5/5. Attack primary and adjacent targets for 400% damage. Apply defense down for 2 turns and 2 bleed. In raids, apply trauma for 2 turns and two primary and adjacent targets. That, in conjunction with all the flipping we were doing earlier, sounds very scary to me. Clear all negative effects from self and all allies. Heal self and all allies for 30% of this character's max health. And apply 2 regeneration to self and all Hive Mind allies. So that's where we're getting our regen from everybody. Because when I read the basic, I was like, I feel like this is sort of weak, but that's because it's in the special.
Yeah, so I think, and I mean, this is not my experience because I obviously just unlocked Void Knight, the don't have Venom, but I think I've heard from people that said that the one issue that the 4-piece has is survivability. And I think that this kind of helps. Or if you look at, Red Goblin's kit in general, it definitely helps. Yeah, so all the healing, amount of regeneration, all pretty good. Trauma, trauma goes hand in hand with the amount of negatives that you put out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You stun, you put a trauma in, the guy's stuck there for life. Even the ability block, yeah, guys, dead on arrival.
Yeah. All right. Ultimate out for blood. Energy cost 4/4. If his character does not have so Carnage blood symbiote, that's why he's red. If this character does not have trauma, transfer 5 negative effects from each Hive Mind ally to self, excluding stun. So that's different. In raids, copy 5 negative effects from self to each enemy. Clear all negative effects from self, plus heal 5% of this character's max health, plus 15% per negative effect cleared. Attack all enemies for 320% damage, plus 125% additional damage per negative effect on each effect on the primary target. Apply slow for 2 turns. In raids, prolong the duration of all negative effects on the enemies by 1. Apply 2 regeneration to self and all symbiote allies. This attack is unavoidable. This is another encyclopedia one, eh? Transferring negative effects from allies, is that new to Red Goblin? Because he deals damage based on the negative effects on himself?
Not really, actually. I mean, transferring is not a new thing. I think as Zombie Man does that for MOE. There's probably other teams that do that. I think X-Force, obviously half the world, everyone has forgotten about X-Force, but there is an ability to transfer negatives. I think it's Domino's ability that transfers the negative to Deadpool, and then obviously Deadpool heals, right? But no one talks about X-Force anymore. That's our last conversation about X-Force. And obviously he heals and everything, so that's pretty cool.
Nice. And then passive Scarlet Shredder. So I don't know exactly what this looks like, but one thing I wanted to point out is, so Green Goblin uses his Goblin Bombs. When he becomes Red Goblin, he has these things, he calls them Carnage Bombs, and essentially he puts bits of Carnage inside the bomb, and when it shoots off, it's Carnage Shrapnel, and that shrapnel goes and it goes into people's minds, and it doesn't eat their minds, it like stabs them in the head and kills them, which is what that sounds like to me, but also it could just be the brutality of ripping people apart with a Carnage symbiote. It could be either. I like to think it's the Carnage Bombs, but why wouldn't they just, that should be like the basic or something, and they have Carnage Bombs, but whatever. What do I know? Scarlet Shredder, here we go. On spawn, gain charged. Apply defense up for 2 turns and deflect to stealth and all Hive Mind allies. In raids, apply taunt for 2 turns to the highest health Hive Mind ally. On turn, heal for 20% of this character's max health. apply 2 Deflect and Taunt for 2 turns to the highest health Hive Mind ally. If charged, revive 1 dead symbiote ally with 60% max health, then lose charge. When this character or Hive Mind ally drops below 50% max health, if that character has Taunt, do the following to that character. Clear Taunt, apply Safeguard, apply M2 Deathproof. Fill this character speed bar by 30%. When an enemy takes damage from bleed, apply a +1 deflect up to a maximum of 5 to all Hive Mind allies. On death of a Hive Mind ally, fill this character's speed bar by 25%. Gain 60% damage. Hive Mind allies gain 60% damage. Gain 25% block amount. Hive Mind allies gain 25% block amount. That is a lot of there's a lot of stuff there.
It is.
I didn't expect this team to have revive because of all the healing.
Well, to be fair, if you look back at all the raid teams had a form of revive. You look at Rebirth, you look at Invaders, right now with
Death Seed.
Extreme. I think the last even Pegasus right now with Rescue. The last team that I think that does not have the raid team that doesn't have revive would probably be Bionic Avengers. So I think I was talking about this on stream a few days ago. Like I made the call and said that 100% Red Goblin has revived, and like it's not tied. I was expecting it to be tied to his like ultimate or something, but you know what? Still has a revive, and it's based on the charge. The one thing that people are talking about, and I don't know whether it's been confirmed. So charge carries on, right?
Mm-hmm.
You use the extreme, you know that your charge carry like the charge from Sunspot, the charge from Cyclops, they will carry on from node to node, and it's been that way since like Storm, right? You don't know, Storm was like a very old counter, a very old team that people use in raids. So let's say there are 3 nodes in Bio. Let's say you don't use the charge from node 1 to node 2 and you go to the boss node. Does it mean that you have 3 charges on the boss node? Because there's no like limit, like there's no saying like, oh, there's a max of 3 1 charge, right? Like if you look at the extreme kits, there's like this Cyclops max is 40, if I'm not wrong. Like it says in the kit that there's a max, whereas there's no max over here, and I think it's not been confirmed anywhere. They probably ask questions about it, but I think it'll be quite interesting, on the boss node. Realistically speaking, you probably don't need the charge on the boss node. That you need 3 revives, kind of thing. But I think it's interesting that it's tied to the charge mechanic. Obviously, don't get hit by a Quicksilver, because that will ruin your day. Don't get hit by Silver Surfer on his ult, because that will also remove charges. It's pretty, like I said, this is lengthy, but I think it's interesting to see the taunt on the highest health Hive Mind. If you look at the kits for Hive Mind, on equal investment, the highest health member would be Void Knight. Obviously, for most people starting out, because Void Knight is a newer character, the likely character that's going to have the taunt will be Venom. So, like, it's an interesting thing to think about.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, and and let's say so that's why people were talking about it there's a video on it, right? Someone had the video like over the week. I don't know, I was away during the week, but apparently they're talking about how on the video Venom spawns with a taunt, and I guess this confirms why. And Venom, a lot of his kit has to do with speed bar, and let's say that Venom's the one that's taunting, fill this character's speed bar by 30% again. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, it's definitely an interesting passive to have. And like I said, Void Knight generally has the highest health, but like Venom having the taunt is hella interesting.
So as it stands right now, we've worked all the way through our Hive Mind kits. I also never said the Hive Mind symbiotes have a Hive Mind, so it's very radically inconsistent throughout the comics, but when one learns one thing, they should all learn another, and it all comes down to their connection with Clintar. Bam! But with all the information, Red Goblin's kit is out. How are you feeling right now about building Hive Mind?
Okay, so I have already have Venom at G18. I did that for the tower. Oh. Okay, honestly, because I thought everything was going to be alien spores, I was a bit hesitant. I don't like teams where multiple characters have the same unique. Alien spores is the one that I hate the most because it reminds me of the symbiote days, right? And then alien spores also used by Super Skrull, which I just got like a month ago, and obviously I'm still building my reserves up. But honestly, now that they changed the uniques for two of the characters, I think they're pretty good. Um, in terms of gear investment, probably yeah G16, G70, and let's be real, right? As a raid team, they will clear the content. They will clear the raids. Whether or not I will build them higher for like external content like war or CC, that remains to be seen. I don't do theory crafting. I'm not that smart. Um, I'm not that smart to theory craft. I copy people's theory crafts and use them for my own. I'm a thief.
Aren't we all?
But yes, we are. But yeah, I mean, like, it's interesting. My only concern with this team is that because they have speed up on spawn only in raids, that they may suffer a little bit outside of raids. Or ignite aside. Yeah, so that's what I feel about the team. That's my only concern. At the very least, they'll be a good offensive team, but to be slow outside of CC and raids, and outside of raids, that is in CC and in war, it's a little bit concerning to me. Where you can't put them on defense, I think, unless you have Super Scroll with them, right? Other than that, yeah, like they should be good on offense at the very least. And hey, offense is always I like offense. I like to play my toys.
So, frame of reference for anybody that's watching this. So Rolf, which incursion difficulty are you doing?
We are doing the highest one, which is I guess incursion 2.
Is that 2 difficulty like 4?
I guess it's difficulty 4 or whatever. It's not the first strike.
Okay. So I'm doing incursion. I'm doing first strike difficulty 2. And my current plan, I was going to build Hive Mind probably to gear tier 16, like Rolf said, and then I'm going to max out Void Knight. Is essentially where I'm at, because I'm taking Void Knight to DD6, as I said earlier. So just frame of reference, because we're in two totally different leagues. Rolf's way above me. So
I'll probably beat them up eventually. Like I said, I'll wait to see what people have, especially like you talk about Crucible next season. They may have more value because of the callouts for the season rules. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Who knows? Maybe they might get the rebirth treatment right now that is in war. We know like how rebirth is massively buff in war right now on defense. Hive Mind might get that treatment next war season. We have to wait and see. My fear with over investing to Hive Mind is the same as over investing to raid teams. I think people talk about it about how you shouldn't over invest in your raid teams. And that's my stance. So yeah, I'll just build it up to where I need it. If I need it more in external content, I'll do that.
Fair enough. Well, thank you, Rolf, so much for those of you who are watching. And if you're not following this man, I'm pointing the wrong way. You are crazy. Give Rolfkieran a follow on YouTube and Twitch. We'll have a link to his stuff in the description. Please let us know in the comments what you thought. This is the first attempt at Canon kits. I would love to hear your different feedback and ideas. My thing just turned off. Your different ideas. Please like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. And watch out for both of us streaming on our respective channels. And I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. Most importantly, stay cool.